Presented by That Time I Got Reincarnated in the Same World as an Anime Podcaster, this is Shonen Jumping the Gun, the show where we set our sights on the first chapter of a manga and decide if it's a misfire or a bullseye.
Let's see how many rounds are in this magazine.
On today's episode, Gantz. Welcome, everybody. I am your old classmate recognizing you at the train station, Moxie the Yeen, here with my pessimistic teenage-brained co-host, Isekai Sensei Sama Brad. Brad, how you doing?
Don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me, don't look at me.
Yeah, but I know in your head you're thinking about how much a piece of shit everybody else is except you, so... Yeah, we're covering Gantz. My feelings are already leaking. Let's get through it. Hey guys, you may have noticed that 2 episodes ago we talked about the Gantz episode coming up. And then you heard another episode that was not the Gantz episode where we talked about the Gantz episode in past tense. And now we're here talking about it in current past tense, that we moved it out of order because, as you probably understood from our tone of voice, freaking Gantz.
Yeah, it was not a great time, but...
We were annoyed that we had to talk about it. We were annoyed that we talked about it. You were annoyed that you had to edit it. But it happened. It was important.
Yeah, it's a thing that occurred. One thing.
But now it's a thing you'll listen to.
We did. I made some references over and over again, and you would have heard this at the end of the previous episode, where I talked about live action Gantz. We did look that up after we recorded, and it turns out not live action, completely CG.
Yes, not humans.
There is a live action version, but that's not the one that I was referring to. So it turns out there's lots of Gantz.
Too many Gantz. And this podcast is full of Gantz.
Some of them have redeeming qualities, and
some of them are full of teenagers.
Don't. So,
have fun.
Yeah. Good luck.
I won't judge you too harshly if you skip.
I will. You have to suffer like we did.
Gantz ran from June 2000, the year 2000, to June 2013. Wow, for 37 volumes, and ran in Weekly Young Jump, which is ironic
long?
Because this is a Seinen magazine called Weekly Young Jump, and that continues to confuse me. Yeah, this does not feel like something that could run 37 volumes.
Wow.
Yeah, I know, right? It was written by Hiroa Oku, and he after Gantz, he appears to mostly be trying to go back to Gantz's well of success, and also sometimes being horny. I think one of the later years ones that was listed on his Wikipedia page was a woman whose breasts could change size, and that was the one sentence descriptor of it on his Wikipedia page.
Great.
Yes, this was the information I read before going into writing the summary, where I was just like, I'm so tired with this world. Fuck everything.
Okay. Quick aside, I don't understand what gets people off about inflation. I don't. And not the economic kind.
Okay, I got really confused. I'm like, where is this coming from?
That's all I have to say about that. I just don't get it.
But sometimes think it big.
But
I don't get it either. But also sometimes think it, what if bigger? Not huge, just bigger.
Just start big. Why?
Because sometimes it's in the journey, Brad. We are starting off in a very strange mind space for Gantz.
This is a very strange thing.
Yes, agreed. I did bring up the horny, so I guess that's on me. Time for my patented Moxie's Mach Speed manga submarine. That was on purpose mostly.
We all live in a Moxie submarine.
A Mach Speed submarine. A Mach Speed submarine. Chapter 1, An Incident. We open with softcore pornography. Off to a great start as I roll my eyes.
Would you call it? I don't know. It's just, it's like a Sports Illustrated swimsuit edition. That's not softcore.
Is it? Let me finish. We'll talk about it later.
I mean, it turns in this chapter turns into that.
Yeah. Our protagonist, Kai Kuruno, first-year high schooler, is reading said porn while waiting for the train in a crowded station. What a freak. An old woman asks if she can get to Hinota Station from here. Kei's inner monologue doubts it, but it's a pain to explain, so he just says, yeah, you can. What an asshole. The old woman thanks him. Then after a moment, she says she thinks she's not in the right place. Kai tells her to figure it out herself and not rely on other people. Gosh! I want to boil this protag alive in his own juices. Kai goes on to have a bunch of really teenage thoughts about himself and the other people at the train station and how dumb they all are, but then he spots, is that an old classmate? Masuro Kato. He looks the same. Supposedly became a punk after transferring elementary schools.
He literally stands directly next to it.
Yeah. They were best friends, but he probably doesn't remember Kai. Like, what is this line of thinking? My commentary about how I feel is oozing out since moment one.
Good luck, everybody.
Good luck. Sorry if you like Gantz. Sorry, not sorry. Kai notices the strange homeless-looking man from earlier has fallen on the train tracks and can't get up. There's weirdly no attendants around. Kai thinks no one will help. Not for this kind of guy. Kai seems kind of excited to see the man get splattered like they do in the movies. Kind of really fucked up, Kai. He sees Masura sweating before finally saying he'll go down to help the dude. He jumps down to help the dude, but it's slow going. The man isn't really responding or helping. No one is helping. Masura recognizes Kai in that moment, and against his thoughts, Kai jumps down to help. Then the call that the train is arriving. Hurry, hurry. They get the man up the platform before the train arrives, and they start running. Masura explains that the train slows to a stop, so they can just outrun it. They might live. But they're dumbasses, and this is a pass-through stop for the train, and they are killed. Their bloody heads ripped from their bodies and thrown up onto the train station pavement. But they aren't dead. They appear in a strange room. Back at the train station, everybody is freaking out about the heads. The bearded man doesn't care about any of it and leaves without a second thought. I hate this manga. Back in the strange room with Kai and Masura, there are a bunch of other people as a man in a business suit declares that there are 2 more here. Back at the train station, the cops question people, and they all talk about the heads and the heads and stuff being there, but strangely, there's no blood anywhere. No evidence that any of this happened. Back in the room, the business suited man asks if they were about to die too. End of chapter 1. I fucking hate pessimistic things written like this, where it's like, I'm the big hotshot. Everything's terrible. Everybody's terrible. I have such a dire view of the world. And I keep chasing my things after I wrote this 37 volumes that I have to keep going back to the well, or I write super horny shit.
I'm not disagreeing with you, but also I think maybe the point is that you shouldn't like this kid and think he's a bit of a dickhead.
Yes, but nothing else that happens gives me the idea that there's anything but, like, raw pessimism.
Yeah, not in this chapter.
Because we went behind the curtain. I read the first 2 chapters because I needed a little bit more, and originally that's what I was going to cover in the summary. And when I wrote chapter 1 of the summary, I was so miserable having to go back to this that I just messaged Brad and said, fuck it, I'm only doing chapter 1.
There's not really much in chapter 2 anyway.
No, they meet there's a bunch of people there. They're in like a weird apartment in Japan, but nobody can leave, but people keep showing up, I guess, when they've died, and everybody kind of describes their situation, or they don't.
And then there's a naked woman at the end.
Yes, again. Like, why?
Okay, so I'm in a weird situation with this.
Okay.
Because I watched the live action movie Gantz a couple years ago.
Did it have anything to do with this, or is it something else?
Yeah, it's the exact same thing.
I'm going to ask you afterwards what happens. Unless you talk about it now.
This first chapter gives you absolutely no idea what this is going to be.
Interesting.
So I would say anybody who's listening to this, probably just don't go off of this episode of this podcast for if you should read this or not.
I mean, I guess this is the problem with, this is the inherent problem with this format, is that I only get a chapter or 2 and form long-reaching opinions of it.
Right. This would be the perfect opportunity where they should start you in the middle of the first big thing that happens and then do a flashback. If I could excise the tone from it and the vibes I get from it, the concept of the thing of somebody's falling on the tracks, like the weirdness of in that moment of this is somebody who recognizes you, that you die but you don't, and the intrigue of when the cops are there, it's well, you guys are all describing all this bloody mess, but there's literally nothing here. Yeah.
And then showing up in where the people, there is intrigue to that, but the tone of it was just so, actively my kryptonite that just pissed me off as I was reading it, and B, I know enough about manga writers that they have a habit of having a big mystery, but then they don't have the answer when they write it, and they just have to fuck out the answer later when the wheels come off. And I think that's a terrible way of writing intrigue.
Yeah.
Is going, so sometimes you can have like a shonen thing where you can you can kind of plant things and improv later, but it's like, if fucking Oda doesn't know what the One Piece is, we're all fucked. Like, that's a shitty way to write. And maybe he changed it over time, but he knew what it was. Like, it's why so much of like Japanese horror sucks, because it starts with this big intrigue moment, but it never can land the plane because they never thought about how the plane would land when they started driving the plane.
I don't think that's what's happening here.
Okay. Obviously, your future vision is going to be very helpful in my little hissy fit that I'm throwing.
Yeah. And funny enough, I think you might actually... you hate the main character, and that's fine. I also don't particularly like him. He does... I'm pretty sure the point is that he's shitty and he goes through shit.
That, but it's like, that's the problem when I have these things where it's like, there's nothing in the world that leads me to believe that the person writing this is not a pessimistic piece of shit, because I've run into those series before that their worldview is just so like, fuck it. It was one of the reasons I didn't like, behind the curtain, a billion years ago, we were going to do a special episode of the Mainline podcast on Akira. Brad had gotten me the books for Christmas, and I read them over the summer, but the problem was I moved then and just didn't, it took us a while to settle back in, and the kind of the thing had left, but I was reading all the manga, and we were going to watch the movie and talk about it. And that never happened, but I remember just being frustrated with this uber violent, pessimistic vibe that was coming out of Japan by certain writers in the 70s and the 80s, and maybe they were miserable because it was post the bubble bursting. I don't know. But it was just I don't like to deal with people that have such a pessimistically gross teenage mindset about the world. And the pornography and learning more about the author did not help my view that that's not how the author wrote what was going on. Because the idea, and maybe there's sci-fi, there's more strings being pulled of the fact that it's this homeless man, he's on the tracks, nobody wants to save him, oh man, I'm so excited he's gonna get splattered. And that nobody else goes to help, nobody else calls for, everybody else there is shitty, and that when the people are telling the homeless man that he was saved, he just goes, fuck it, and he leaves, and there's literally a man throwing up at the insane, disgusting thing he just saw, and all this homeless man can do, who was just saved from death, is just go, fuck you, shit off, and then he leaves. And it's just that does not give me good vibes of where this writer's running it, when everybody in the world is just kind of shitty. And I'm sure, that's the thing. All I can say is, I'm guessing maybe there's things pulling the strings, and maybe he's an agent of whatever is collecting these people together for this whatever. And I don't know. Also, what the fuck are we doing for 37 chapters? I don't know. I don't know anything. And what you tell me is that I don't know anything. Statement.
Well, I'm just going to come out and say
Do it.
For 37 chapters, we're going to fight yokai with sci-fi guns.
What?
Yeah.
Why?
Because it's fucking awesome. This is such a terrible first chapter.
This is not sci-fi then.
It is. I
need to make confused noises into the microphone because people can't see my face, making just the most genuine what?
I forget how they got to this situation. Maybe they didn't even explain it in the movie. But they literally are fighting yokai with lasers and shit.
Am I blinking of confusion noises like that one guy, that gif of that guy is just and he's blinking and he's looking confused?
The movie is pretty awesome. It's not
cinema, but yeah.
Yeah, but yeah.
I'm just so... Because of everything that we were covering in Sci-Fi Arc, Gantz is the only one I don't believe anybody personally suggested. Everything else is suggestions from people that we know, from
which is good.
Discords we frequent, which is good.
Because if someone had suggested this, I would have been why? Yeah.
I think this was literally just me Googling best sci-fi manga, and this showed up near the top. Now I'm baited on the hook of just raw curiosity.
Maybe
know if I was wrong.
We'll watch the movie together.
maybe.
I think if you give it 20 minutes, you'll be like,
Okay,
let's watch all of this.
I mean, like this is the problem of the show. This is the joy and the failure of the show of like literally like to fighting yokai. Literally, because it was on Game Pass, I played Tokyo Ghostwire. In the beginning, I hated because it just barfed a bunch of information at me without any basis in anything. And then I was like, I'm going to keep rolling with it. And then it became like, oh, I love this game. I'm going around Tokyo, beating up yokai and floating around and fighting cool ghosts and learning a bunch of Japanese lore that I love. And if I hadn't given it the time of day out of what quote unquote was chapter 1 of me playing that video game, I wouldn't have kept with it. And I'm keeping that lesson with me in my heart. But also this is the failing of the show. This is why we have a new format of the show coming up with a particular series in a couple of months. Because I'm sick of having my same little baby hissy fits, and then I can instantly change my tune once I've settled into the pool water after I'm gotten over it being really cold.
As soon as you talk to me about it.
Well, no, I mean, sometimes it's literally just like once I settle in for a minute more, I'm fine. And, you know, the strong feelings is me. I have strong feelings because I don't have a bucket for it. So I go, there's no bucket.
This
is why you're my co-host.
This is not a good first chapter.
No.
Like, I mean, it's not, I can't say, oh, it's bad, but it's like, it doesn't give you enough. It's not long enough. I don't think one chapter is enough. I don't think 2 chapters is enough, frankly.
Is the tone similar? Because this is setting up like my read on this is a slightly more bloody, pessimistic, what's the horror writer guy that everybody...
Junji Ito?
Yeah, like it feels like that. Of like, you die and you go to this weird room with these other people and you're like, and that's the only information I have, and it reads more like horror than than sci-fi or the information you've told me.
I think there's a lot of, like, there's character growth arc for this kid to like stop being a piece of shit. And...
I can follow a piece of shit. I just need the sensation that it was the problem I had with Blue Lock, where it's like I can't tell. Like, I know the fact that there was like he made a character that was saying what I was thinking, and then he dunked on that character, and I'm like, what am I supposed to do with that information? I don't know if like I couldn't tell.
I don't think this is that situation.
Okay.
Now that said, given what you said about
Blue Lock is we never figured out how the author felt about anything.
But given what you said about the author of Gantz, the other stuff that he's done, that does give me pause. But knowing what I know from seeing the movie, I don't think that's what's happening.
But is the movie not stripping that stuff out of it? Because the movie is not 37 volumes.
No, I think there's character growth within.
No, not character. It's not about character growth. It's about tone and and intention of the author. I don't care if he gets better. That's great. But if the entire thing is written in this like shitty world thing. Like, I don't like stuff written like that.
So, from at least in my memory, and again, this was many years ago, I don't remember much of this, but I think it's more just like a kaiju film kind of thing, where it's like...
See, that's the thing. That's why I want to, like, I'd be open to watch it, but I want to read, I want to get it, I want it straight from the source to see if stuff like that was stripped out. Because it's just the crassness of you open on tits. Is just like we're open on tits and very teenage thoughts about literally everybody around him and like really shitty teenage thoughts, and it's like this does not bode well for the vibe of what the author feels about the world and me vibing with it or not. And now that you tell me that this opener has almost nothing to do with where we go, I'm even more confused, and I have no idea what I'm going to put on my thinky thinks and feely feels now, because clearly what I ate was not the meal.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's all they're doing here with the opening is going, hey, this kid, he might he's like a lot of other teen boys. He's sort of a piece of shit.
Yeah, I hate teen boys.
So
by and large.
Now we're going to throw him into a situation where he has to be better. Which honestly, I think a lot of series do.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's maybe a bit of a crutch for easy writing of like, if your main character sort of sucks at the beginning, it's really easy to make him seem better by the end.
I mean, yes. I mean, I always make my argument of like, if I have nobody I want to follow, why would I follow along with your shitty protagonist?
Yeah.
And like the thing that made me want to keep going was the intrigue. Like I stopped at 2, even though I wanted to know what the fuck was going on, but I stopped. chapter 1 wasn't as long as the other ones. That's why I was kind of making the play for a second one.
But you get
as well.
You get the intrigue. You also get the other boy who is not a piece of shit.
Yeah.
And then you're like thrown into this situation.
But I have to also have boy number 1 constantly talking shit about boy number 2, who's done nothing but good things.
No, but I think that's just to further the
dichotomy
fact that he's a piece of shit.
Yeah. But it's like, there's a billion other, like, I mean,
especially because then he goes on, and this might even be in chapter 2, the other boy talks about how back when they were kids, he really looked up to the piece of shit boy.
Like,
and so he's different now. And like,
because he did that. Yeah. Like, I mean, to fast forward ahead, like, I'm going to read more Gantz. Like, I need to know. Like, before we had this conversation, I needed to know. But like, some of it is not a hate read, but I'm pissed read.
Well,
I need to know. I need to be proven right or wrong, and I will take that egg on my face if I just was like, well, I didn't have enough information and I was a hotshot about it, because I do that all the time, and like I have recent lessons where I got too fiery too quick, but that's just my personality. So I'm trying to sit with it a little bit more. There's something here. Google is telling me this is one of the top sci-fi manga for the reason. I'm going to dig a little bit further.
So the first thing that's going to happen is, before I leave tonight, we're going to watch a couple clips of the movie on YouTube.
Okay, I guess.
But this show is all about the first chapter.
Correct. Yep.
And so I think we're both pretty much in agreement that this is not a good first chapter.
No. Do we want to make that as a new thing we're paying attention to, of if we like it or not, but if it's a good first chapter? Admittedly, that is formed, some of that opinion is formed by what's coming, so we know if it's shit or not.
I mean, I think it's important to say that, like, if all we had was this first chapter, we both got turned off by it. I'm turned off by it, and I know what's going to happen.
I got turned off by it, but I was also hooked because the intrigue was too strong. But that's like you read the first volume, if that, and then I go, okay, because it'll have to settle by that point. I
think that's like watching an unsolved murder mystery video where it's like, I hate that this happened, but I'm so interested in it.
Yeah, it's got a bit of, now you say that, it does have a little bit of a true crime ring to it. But yeah, just sort of like what I take into my body emotionally. This was my kryptonite. I was about to say this is my antichrist, but that felt even too hyperbolic even for me.
Let's talk about the art.
I'd have to look at it again, but I don't remember it really.
Yeah, it's fine.
The art was the art.
It's very 90s.
It wasn't generic, but it wasn't like, oh, interesting.
You know, it was interesting. There are a couple shots. Specifically, the one that's stuck in my head is when the taller kid is down on the tracks before the other one jumps down, and he's sort of like sweating, trying to get him up, and he's like looking around. Really reminded me of Chainsaw Man.
Oh, interesting.
And I couldn't help but thinking, I'm like, did Fujimoto get some inspiration here?
I don't know, who knows, maybe.
But like, just the art style was like...
Chainsaw Man's something that I like, even though... I mean, I guess because like Denji was a piece of shit, but
Denji's not a piece of shit, though.
No.
He's just dumb.
He's very stupid. But like, that's a world, like, that's one where it's like, I don't know where my bounds are, because it's like, the Chainsaw Man world is shit. It's terrible. It's awful. But I think it's just because it's not written pessimistically. It's written by like... It has the air of a god who's just kind of paying attention and shrugs his shoulders a lot.
Yeah.
It's not a god going, ha ha ha, die in shit.
Some people.
Some people do get that. But it feels more tragic than just the general, like, I don't know. Like, I'm extra sensitive to teenage boy angst about the like a hopelessness about the world. I've run into some people who are younger than me who have that mentality, and I just want nothing to do with them because it's such... Like, obviously, some of that is formed by their life experiences. Of like,
I mean, the world sucks, so...
Oh, the world sucks, but, like, I'm not saying you can never say the world sucks, because, like, of all times, but especially right now, the world fucking sucks right now.
But it doesn't do you any good to dwell in that.
But, yeah, it's not... If you're going around, like, I'm the smartest person because I'm the one that's saying the world is a piece of shit when no one else is doing it.
No, that's
like,
dumb. Yeah.
That's stupid. Like, you are not...
No,
like,
everybody else knows it's shit, too.
It's about finding... the beauty in there, because there is beauty in the world. Like, there are things to be like to find, and if you just mire yourself in the depression of it and all the shit of it, like, you're just going to be miserable all the time, which means you're going to suck because being miserable sucks. And sometimes we have to be miserable about things because the world sucks, but it's not, don't make it your personality. Like, do not be like a brooding, shitty asshole about it because nobody wants to talk to you then.
Because you know what?
What?
Sucks to suck.
I thought you were going to go, that's Gantz. That's just like a nonsense word to say.
Next time,
in the vein of that's beans, but like the bad version of that's beans.
Next time we're out, shopping or whatever, and we see something horrible happen,
you just go,
like, that's totally Gantz.
That's Gantz.
That's Gantz as fuck.
It's the secret code word. Okay, let's land this.
What else is going on? This is what do we have to talk about?
Where it can go. I gave my little predictions. I want more intrigue and less shitty teenage ideology of these shut-in manga artists, men. Yeah.
Okay.
My feelings are so... When I was in my kitchen thinking about it after I messaged you, it was literally, I want to spit on your grave, and now I've maybe calmed down a little bit, but I'm still sharpening my knife a little bit.
I think we're both probably on the same wavelength for feelings for this, which is whatever is below fine. Is it bad?
Hawk to a parentheses, your grave.
I'm not at the lowest level, but I'm only one step up from that. Because it's just like, this is...
me reading it was that me now post-talking has probably gone to that one of awful or whatever. Now, even worse. I don't remember if I had one between that and grave spitting.
That's all of that in mind. I do have to say, from what I believe is an objective perspective.
Yeah. Are you only going from the first chapter?
Just for the first chapter.
Yeah.
I think this is, I would say, between fine and good.
I would say good, parentheses, begrudgingly.
Yeah. That's fair.
This is, my feelings get to go more intensely because, like, this is a vibe that is, like I've said multiple times, this is specifically something that makes me go, ah. Right. And it describes a bigger thing I do not like in the world with a strong vehemence. Yeah. And that's why we have thinky thinks and feely feels. And then when I'm thinking, if I think about it and I can separate my brain, I can try really hard to separate my brain from that. It set up intrigue that hooked me in.
Yeah.
Did it do a good job about doing whatever the heck the series is from what you've described? Sounds like no, not at all. If anything, it turned me off.
Right. And that's, as much as I like to be objective about these things, that is a big thing for me, is the fact that, like, I recognize this when you put it on the list, and then I read this chapter and I was like, what the hell? This is a terrible introduction for what this is doing.
Counterpoint to that as a concept with older manga, even though this is in the 2000s, I guess they're still kind of doing it. A lot of early manga takes time to find what it is about.
Yeah.
Where it becomes what it is. See early Dragon Ball... See Yu Yu Hakusho before he gets the spirit gun, where we're just like, we're having ghost adventures.
There's a Dragon Ball in the first chapter of Dragon Ball.
Yeah, but we're not doing, like... I feel like Dragon Ball takes a while to find, like, where it becomes Dragon. Like, I feel like Dragon... And maybe just because we have the hindsight of, like, probably starting with Z. It's like, it's a while before it's like, we get to the Strongest Under the Heavens tournament or whatever. Yeah. Like, where Dragon Ball becomes Dragon Ball and not just, like, a fun little goofy adventure.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's others that kind of take time to become what it becomes. I mean, it still sounds like this one is not. This is its own little kettle of fish.
I have no idea
and also it's the 2000s,
how quickly they get to the meat of this.
I'll find out. I'm going to be reading it.
I don't think it takes too long.
I'd be curious.
So...
Sometimes movies shorten things. I know I mean, it's not the greatest example, but, like, I know that Yu Yu Hakusho Netflix one, like, sped up the spirit detective stuff to get to the stuff that everybody wants, which, like, is neither here nor there because I've never seen any of Yu Yu Hakusho, really. So, but whatever. Would you buy?
No.
Yes, but I would burn it when I was done.
You might not want to.
Yes, but I will buy it, but I hold the opportunity, if my opinion doesn't change, that I do want to burn it, unless my opinions are swayed. But I'm too intrigued by this, even if I personally am very pessimistic about that it will not continue to step on my toes and spit in my face and not give me a reasonable, an answer that I like, that I'm compelled by.
So, my answer for this is strictly from the first chapter.
Yep.
And I guess the second chapter
Yes.
still counts. But
It does.
I read them. I'm like, this is not for me. I don't want this. But like beyond that, I don't think, even knowing what this turns into, I don't think I want to read the manga. I think
we're gonna watch this movie.
I might like an anime, but I think the if I'm remembering correctly, I think the live action did a pretty decent job. So
this feels like a different flavor from when we had Slam Dunk, where it's like I was hearing about it, and it's like this is on the top of sports list, and it's like this Gantz is at the top of sci-fi list, and there's a certain amount of pedigree that you come into, and then you go, this is the pedigree, this is the chart topper.
Yeah.
But where Slam Dunk, I was just like, I couldn't figure out why it wasn't clicking with me, and I was just like very like respectful, forgive me, I'm but a peon. This is just like it's the other side of the coin where like, really? And I do my big Yakuza thug squat and I go, this one? A lot of anime fans, very angsty growing up. They did not have friends. It wasn't like how it is now where you just get a billion friends because you like My Hero Academia, or maybe you hate it. I don't know.
So if you're listening to this right now and you're screaming,
you want to throttle
and
me,
going, no, Gantz is so great, come into our Discord.
Talk to me. I will listen. I promise you. I promise you I won't be shitty about it.
By the time this episode comes out, you will have seen at least clips of the movie, and probably
I'll have read
more of the
by the
manga.
time this episode drops.
So there might be a huge difference.
There could be.
But that's not what the show is for.
No, but genuinely changed my mind. I think we've had times in this very show where, like, if I hear things and get information, like, I can change my tune. I have hyperbolic emotions, and they can move around. But I feel like I've proven with that I'm open and willing to listen to things.
Yeah.
Though, admittedly, sometimes there's just, this isn't for me.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where it's not hyperbolic. That's where it's just like, there's not enough here in either direction to keep me moving forward. And I guess that one's kind of harder to do it, but sometimes it works. I don't know.
Yeah.
But no, I'm open to conversation. It is not just a point to bring you on to be.
I hope you're open to conversation. We've got like 270 hours worth of it already.
Truth. I meant with the podcast listeners, especially if they have strong feelings on Gantz in the other direction than mine. So, but yes, thank you, everybody. We got to the end of Gantz. I'm sorry. Or am I?
I'm not.
Thank you. Thank you for being flippant about it. But yes, thank you for putting up with this. Brad, hit me with them plugs.
Well, as always, we want to thank Sugoi Mart for partnering with us. Sugoi Mart is a retailer of Japanese snacks, drinks, toys, and merch, all of which you can't get outside of Japan. Our listeners can use the link in the description or use code APR15 at checkout to get 15% off their first order. And as I mentioned, we do want to hear from you, so you can find all of our social media links on our website, animepodcasterreincarnation.com. Come on our Discord and tell us why we're wrong about Gantz. And then we'll say, yeah, we know. We checked it out afterwards.
You're right, listener.
Also, don't forget to check out our Patreon, where our supporters get perks like getting to vote on which series we cover on heroin addiction, bonus episodes, and getting the high-quality stereo version of the podcast early. And of course, we have to shout out our patrons. First and foremost, at our noble tier, we've got our marquee, Sir Cake Dwarf. At our reincarnator tier, we've got Moon. And last but not least, at our commoner tier, we've got Rena and Killhour. So thank you so much to all our patrons.
Thank you, Brad, for that. Thank you once again, everybody, for listening. Make sure you listen to all the various podcasts on our feed. And, oh, gosh, Brad, you left out the other Japan crate again. We've got Gantz.
I mean, we're going to end on something depressing.
Yeah, but it's depressing, but it's beautiful.
Okay.
And not this that pisses me the fuck off. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's Gantz.
Gantz.
You got Gantz. You left out some sweets. You got Gantz. fuck? Like, this is me disrespecting this manga.
Oh, they're so big. They're Gantz.
These are all after beeps.
Cyberpunk meme.
Gay.
I should put that
They said gay.
the soundboard.
You should. I want that all the time when I'm playing games with y'all. And time for Moxie's Mox Speed C Speed my memories are scripting with my old brain. I was too happy with that joke from the beginning not to use it here.